Imagine life as a video game with its unique set of challenges, quests and adventures. One big, elaborate game. Unpredictable at best, with rules that we didn't sign up for, challenges that we didn't ask for, and rewards that we never thought that we could achieve. There's no manual, no handbook, but there are strategies and practices that can tilt your odds in your favor. And in this video, I'll be talking about how you could win in the game that we call life. One of the few games I'm ashamed to say that I really got hooked on was GTA, and the objective was fairly simple: complete the mission. In many games, characters must build their experience, or points. To level up in your career or personal life, continuous learning and improvement is key. And just like video games, characters acquire skills and abilities, and we too learn and develop this throughout our lives. We gain knowledge, we acquire new skills, and we adapt to the ever-changing environment. And if you really sit down and think about it, if you're proactive in learning, you can be that scalpel in your chosen sector, because at the end of the day, those skills never leave you. You need to understand your strengths, weaknesses, and what skill level you are currently at. Are you good at problem solving? Are you creative or logical? Really drill down to specific skills and think about examples of how you can demonstrate this. And in most games, you can develop skills by focusing on getting good and doing the basics, then going on to more complicated tasks. You don't go straight away to defeating the final boss without doing the basics. Now that you know your player and your skill level, it's time to understand the game. What goals and objectives do you have? Is it financial freedom? Is it a loving family or fulfilling career that you're wanting? And there are so many games that we could be playing. And most of us are playing short-term games because we lack patience. Everybody wants to win, but there's a difference in trying to win in the moment and trying to win in the decade. And most people playing short-term games because the indicators are right there, they're right in front of you. But when you play a long-term game, you can strategize and pivot. You approach the task at hand with a certain level of calmness and confidence, because you know what you're doing today will make tomorrow easier for you. And I see this in many fields. The most successful people that I see and I know play a long-term game. And the long-term game isn't particularly attractive or noticeable. Actually, from outsiders looking in, it looks boring, because these tiny steps and advantages aren't noticed until they become too big for people to ignore. I remember playing some fighting games many moons ago, and I'd literally just be pressing any button. I think the term is known as button bashing, but this strategy rarely worked. Yes, I may have been lucky once or twice, but it could not be replicated. You need a strategy for anything that you're doing. A combination of moves that you know that you're gonna follow and you know that works. So gather intel, read books, read from successful individuals, seek mentors. There may have been mentors or people who have just given me a helping word, but all those things that I have actually taken aboard and used in real life situations. The more you know, the fewer mistakes that you're probably going to make, and the quicker that you can adapt to challenges in this game. In any game, whether it's defeating a dragon or saving a princess, there's a goal that drives the overall game. Similarly, you should have a goal that you want to move forward towards. Without a quest, life just becomes monotonous, and every challenge you experience is an opportunity to learn. And once you have enough experience from the many mistakes that you've made and failed attempts, you can finally get to a stage where you can be tested. We've all done it, and I've tried to take shortcuts in games. And yes, while cheat codes are good and they feel nice at the time, and you spend your money on all these things and weapons, they don't actually bring any type of fulfillment. And worst yet, you don't actually learn the lesson while obtaining those goods that you've used those cheat codes for. And this happens in life also, where sometimes you may be given something. Maybe it's a large gift or something that is quite valuable, and you may not realize the hard work it took to get there. You may not have learnt the lessons that you could have learned if you was to obtain these things yourself. And this is why you can't have any shortcuts when it comes to life. There are no hacks. There may be periods of times where you may get lucky, but in essence, learning the lessons in order to get what these cheat codes do give you is more valuable than anything else. Video games often have levels or stages where it becomes progressively more challenging, and I think life mirrors this in various ways. We move through different life stages from childhood to adulthood, and each is presenting itself with its own set of challenges and opportunities. And I've got a whole video on this where in certain stages of our life, that's where we are in that moment of time, and we need to be able to acknowledge, if you're in your early 20s, that's probably the time for experimentation. In your 30s, it's probably a time for growth. And as you're going through life stages, there's a different objective for each one. One thing I did like about the newer versions of GTA is that you could choose various characters and end up at different points when you completed the game. And I think life is like this also. Life is not linear. Not everything goes to as planned or as we expected it. When things haven't gone to plan, you need to ask yourself, what's your next action after you've had a setback? How can you set yourself up for a better comeback? Because in a world that often craves order and predictability and straight lines and paths, it can be inherently disorientating when we realize that life is not this way. At times it can be nonsensical and non-linear. And it was so annoying in my early 20s, and especially when I was a teenager, you're taught to follow a series of steps. And these steps should give you this outcome that should miraculously happen. You go to school, you get a job, you get married, you get a mortgage, and you retire. This is the path that is somewhat ingrained into all of our heads. But in reality, life is far more complex and unpredictable. Changes in the game can happen in the blink of an eye. Maybe it's a pandemic, maybe it's a job loss, or maybe it's actually a new opportunity in a different country. Sometimes the most randoms of things would happen, and it may not necessarily go my way. And you need to remind yourself that sometimes life can be chaotic and life can just throw its curveballs at you. You need to remind yourself that sometimes shit just happens, because those detours can lead to career changes, unexpected relationships, and unplanned moves. Because these detours, they reshape us, they enrich our lives in ways that we could have never anticipated. I was recently watching Superman, and there was a bit in it where Clark Kent's father says, you have a choice on who you want to be. And I think in life, I think about what impact do I want to have on other people? Because inevitably, I feel like as a person, there is a paper trail of your behavior. Ultimately, there is a paper trail of your character, and the dividends of this will pay off or not. When I was freelancing, your reputation is everything. Because if I didn't do a good job, that would either mean not getting rebooked or not getting any type of recommendations. So the quality of my character was paramount. As I did good jobs, this had a ripple effect. It led on to more work, more recommendations, and ultimately I was able to grow as a freelancer. And this also applies in other areas of your life where, let's say you jump from job to job. Eventually that's going to catch up with you. Someone's going to clock on and be like, right, it can't be every employer that has given you a somewhat similar problem. There's a common denominator, and that common denominator is you. Because in most situations, it will be your character that is most enduring. You will have bad days, and when you do, people will know that, you know what, no, this is a person that you can trust. This is a person that you can rely on. This is a person that you can confide in. Like any climax to a game, there is a meeting with the final boss. It's a challenge that tests your skills and your knowledge. Everything you've accumulated up until now is going to be put to the test. In gaming, this is a pivotal moment because it means overcoming your toughest challenge yet. Because that final boss is often the most powerful and the hardest enemy that you've ever faced. It's a measuring stick of that player's progress. And by defeating it, you can prove that you've mastered the necessary skills to move on to the next level. Because defeating that final boss often requires a thought out strategy combined with the ability to adapt to unforeseen circumstances. And final bosses are designed to be tough. and the most significant challenges often require many attempts. You never get to the final boss unless you're lucky defeating him straight away. It just doesn't happen. This means in life, whenever you try to do something, it never happens straight away. Yes, there may be one-off cases where someone's had that natural ability or they've been lucky, but it takes many attempts. My brother has recently just got a job and he told me how many times he applied, and I think it was around 20 something times. And I said to him, why? And he was like, I really wanted to work for this company. And he kept that quiet. It wasn't something that he was advertising, it wasn't something he was shouting about. And it just reminded me in the fact of, right, you need to be able to have that certain sense of resilience, persistence, and knowing your self-capability. It only takes one. It takes one success, it takes one win just to change that mindset, to change your progression and get to the next level. And in many games, defeating the final boss marks the end. But in life, this is not the case. This is just the next step. It's the next level. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and you found some value. If you liked this video, please smash the like button. If you want to say hello, please comment below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you guys in a minute.